Hey, welcome to Beyond Film School, where I tell you all about the film industry. I'm Amber, and in this video, we are going to be talking about the dark side of filmmaking and why the unions are approaching a strike. Before we discuss abuse in the film industry, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all the videos I make on the film industry. So you may think that following your dreams, making your vision come to life, being an artist, being a storyteller is worth all the hard work that the film industry throws at you. But I think, and a lot of others think, that the film industry really takes it way too far. Let's get into some of the normal practices on film sets, and the first thing we're gonna cover is the hours. Film schedules are built around a 12-hour day, so a standard film shooting day is 12 hours, and that starts at crew call. But that's not including catering, locations, teamsters, PAs, ADs, hair, makeup, wardrobe, background, and also some of the principal cast who are there hours before that crew call. So whereas grip, electric camera and prop set dressing, they may start at 7. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, ADs, and PAs, and catering might be in at 4 a.m., might be in at 3:30, might be in at 3 a.m. if the crew isn't at 7. So 12-hour shooting days is not 12-hour shooting days for everyone on set.
That's crazy. Batshit crazy.
And because of that system, the hours get insane. I just did an 18-hour day where I was running base camp. I was in at 4 a.m. with, hair, makeup, wardrobe, and one of the actors. And I was leaving. I was like the last person in the entire crew because I was doing the production report. So the hours can get really insane really quickly for certain individuals. I do these kind of hours day in and day out. It is not healthy and it is not safe. At hour 17 of being awake, your brain starts to look like a brain that is intoxicated. Now, that's just being up and awake at 17 hours, let alone just working. So if I'm doing an 18-hour day, that usually means I'm up for at least 20, 21, 22 hours straight. And driving home is kind of questionable because I have heard stories of people being pulled over. They were not drunk, but they got a ticket, they got like DUI or DWI because the cop did not believe that they were just tired. They thought that they were intoxicated. Now, needless to say, this story is on an Instagram account that is talking about all kinds of these stories, and I encourage you to go to this Instagram. It's IA_stories, and it talks about all these types of situations, abusive situations in the film industry. And this one woman in particular, she got pulled over by a cop. He gave her a ticket. He did not believe she was just tired. She went to court, proved she had her call sheet, she was working, she was not drinking, and luckily she got no ticket. But that's the sort of thing that you have to face. Either like you can get into a car crash, many people have died, many people have had heart attacks because of the sleep schedule. So it gets really unsafe when you're talking about just being up for 17 hours, let alone working for 17 hours. There have been many days where I've been up 20, 21, 22 hours from wake up to bedtime, and then done the whole thing over again in just 3 hours, where I've only gotten 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Now, this is not a complaint. This is just cold hard facts. I've done it multiple times. I think the worst time I had it was when I was a background helper on Pose, and being a background helper, getting 200 background ready, you're like one of the first people in and the last people out. And we didn't stagger any calls. I remember it being very, very tough. And it was 2 weeks straight of just getting 3 hours sleep every night. It was the worst. And needless to say, after that job, I had to take like a week off because that was so tough on my body. I remember being like I felt like I was hit by a truck by like day 3. And trust me, there are gonna be those people out there that you're probably watching this and you're saying, just leave the industry. And you know what? I think that's so fucked up to say, and to those people I say kind of fuck off, because I love what I do, and there is nothing wrong with trying to improve your work environment. Like, I love the craft, I love dealing with actors, I love dealing with background, I love logistics, I love solving problems, I love working with the crew, I love that we're in it together, I love working together. That doesn't mean I hate the industry as a whole, but that doesn't mean that things can't improve. So for everyone that tells me in this video or in the comments that you should just leave the industry, I'm just gonna say,
Fuck you.
I have done this for over a decade. I am pretty tough, but I am also human, and there are also other human beings in this industry where we should have a right to have sleep. Like, that is a basic human need. We need to get sleep in order to function. And we'll always say that function at a proper performance, because after a certain amount of hours of sleep, after a certain amount of hours of being up, your cognitive function is not as sharp and you're not going to be as good as your job that you should be. Now, I did mention before about when I worked on Pose, I had to take like a week off after I did that gig. Now, luckily I'm freelance. I can say yes or no to certain gigs. I can take time off if I need to. I cannot take something to give myself a little breather. And I've said this multiple times in other videos, and I'll leave the video above, about like making sure you take time off. It's super important, because a lot of people will start their film industry career at like 18 and then be burnt out by 26. And I hate that I see that, where they're just like, I can't do this anymore, because they're just so afraid that they're not going to get another gig and they're not going to get hired again. So they just keep taking job after job after job. They don't take time off, and it just ruins them. It burns them out. It just totally just fizzes out the spark they had for the film industry, or for filmmaking in general, or for storytelling, and they don't want any part of it, and that's so sad. So while I always space out my gigs, or while I give myself enough time to recoup from one gig to the other, there's always that fear in the back of my head of, am I gonna get hired again? You can make a lot of money, but also there is that time where you might not get a job, so you're always afraid of not taking the next job that's offered to you, and that's a stressful environment to be in. Outside of hours, I wanna get into breaks. Breaks on set don't exist. You know, a regular job will have, you know, a 6-hour shift. If you work more than 6 hours, you are owed a 15-minute break. You go and whatever. I mean, I've been a barista a number of years, and we were allowed a 15-minute break. We're allowed to sit down for 15 minutes. That doesn't exist in the film world. That just does not exist. A 15-minute break, oh my God, that would make my world go round. And then also lunch breaks. They are more and more, I'm seeing on more and more sets, and I just got off 2 sets in a row that were doing French hours. And what French hours are is that you were promised a 10-hour day with not breaking for lunch, where they give you lunch, they'll have catering there, but then people can break, or, you know, hopefully break away on their own, and we won't break for lunch as a company. That sucks for people who cannot be away from set, mainly the directors, DPs, key grip, gaffers, all the PAs. It's really hard to get the PAs a break when we're doing French hours, key PAs, ADs, even the actors. Here, this is a picture of me trying to eat on set. I'm there eating my food rapid fire, and that's something you learn as a PA, is that you will just eat very, very quickly. And I can't tell you on that job the adjustment I had to make, where it was just so hard to get used to not breaking for lunch. And just 20 minutes to sit down would have made the world a difference for me and my legs that day. And each day, cumulative, after doing 5 days, 6 days in a row, it's really hard on your body. So like, I take a lot of supplements, I drink a lot of water, I eat a lot of vegetables to try and make sure my body is like tip-top condition. I make sure I run and I work out. And if I didn't do all those things, I would probably be dead in the water on set. And that was just talking about lunch breaks, or like a 15-minute break that doesn't exist in the film industry. But bathroom breaks are a huge, huge deal on set. Trying to break away from set and trying to use the bathroom, going 10-1, is the hardest thing. Like, you have to stay hydrated on set. You have to drink water or you're just gonna die, basically. And you have to use the bathroom like every couple of hours. We drink so much water. And I can't tell you the amount of stories I hear from women getting UTIs, kidney infections, men also getting infections as well, because we're holding our pee in and we shouldn't be. And it's crazy that someone can't just break away and use the bathroom. And there are stories on that Instagram account where they talk about like their doctor. I'll leave the story right here for you, where she's talking about, you know, making sure her doctor gives her extra antibiotics because she's gonna get another UTI in a couple of months because of her bathroom habits. And it's just, it sucks. Just these stories are like so wild, but I relate to them wholeheartedly. To touch on the French hours a little bit. Now, French hours means we're not gonna break for lunch, we're gonna have a working lunch, like I said before. Now, the last movie I did, we started out doing 9-hour days, 10-hour days, not breaking for lunch. It was all cool, but as the days went on, days got a little longer, still did not break for lunch. We're doing 12 hours, we're doing 13 hours, still didn't break for lunch. Like, we're doing 13 hours not breaking for lunch. On top of that, we did 6-day weeks. We did a 6-day work week. That's also starting to come commonplace where people are doing 6-day work weeks where you get overtime the entire day, but like, for what?
It totally sucks.
As the days go on, people get grumpier and grumpier, and for me on set, not being able to sit down for 12, 13 hours a day because I'm not getting a lunch break, I began not to give a fuck about that whole rule about PAs not being able to sit down and making sure you're hiding when you're sitting down. I did not care. We were doing 12, 13, 14-hour days with no lunch break. I sat down whenever I could. Like, shit goes out the window, and I did not care. And that's a really bad example for people who are like looking to me as a role model, but like, when things become abusive, I'm sitting down. I don't really care of the image you have of me at this point. Sitting down, I don't care. Fuck off if you think I should be standing up.
I said what I said.
Speaking of long hours and a long work week, this brings me to not enough rest. So there's only 24 hours in a day, folks. I know you know that. But if you're working a 17, 18-hour day, that leaves you with 6 or 7 hours of rest away from set. Right now, these are for the non-union or, you know, the indie film folks. So we'll stick with 6 or 7 hours. Now, let's say your commute's about 45 minutes or, you know, I'm gonna give it 30 minutes. So we'll say 30 minutes for a commute. So we'll say an hour. So now we're left with 5 or 6 hours left in a day, minus your commute. Now we have to think about showering and hygiene. Now, if you're really quick, I'll give you another half hour just to wake up, drink some water, shower, get dressed, go to work. You are at 4.5 hours of sleep. Now, this isn't including maybe you need to answer some emails, personal emails, some texts from friends. Maybe you're conversing with a partner. Maybe you want to make food for yourself because you're starving. Maybe you gotta walk your dogs. Maybe read a book. You're not including any of that stuff. To function properly, not even at peak performance, you need 7 hours of sleep. Now that was for the PA folks, maybe the indie AD people or indie film folks who are like working non-union. Now, if you are lucky enough to be union, you are guaranteed a certain amount of turnaround time or rest time, time away from set. For most union, it is 10 hours. For camera, I believe it's 10 and a half or 11. For actors and SAG principal cast, it's 12. So even with those amount of hours, like 10 hours, let's just say you do take that 7 hours of sleep, you're left with 3 hours of possibly, it could be all your commute, could be some commute, some getting ready, some showering. Maybe you have a half hour for like some life stuff if we stuck with that 10 hours. And I can't tell you, when I work in the union world, even though I don't have a guaranteed turnaround time, if I'm working with the actors, I pray that the actors really push to keep their 12-hour turnaround. Because if they keep their 12-hour turnaround and we ended with that actor at night and we are beginning with them in the beginning of the day the next day, that at least means for me, I have some type of reasonable rest. It's the worst. It is the absolute worst when a production will try to convince an actor to invade their turnaround and say,
hey, can we bring you in 10 hours? Can we bring you in at 11 hours? Can we bring you in at 8 hours? We're gonna need you in makeup early, so can we force call you?
That's what it's called, to give them a force call. They get a crazy amount of money to do it, but they have to ask the actor if they can, and some actors, thank God, bless them, bless their souls, they say, no, you cannot force my call.
Bless you, child. Bless you.
It may screw the production, but they always find another way. They always find another way. So for all you actors out there who may be watching this video, I don't know, but people, if you're part of the union, always stick to your union rules because it really helps the other people who are not part of the union. It helps them out so much. Bottom line, without enough rest, you are more stressed. You are not working at your best. You are not in the best mood. You are gaining weight because you're not eating the best. Your appetite goes up because you get less sleep, and you are just a shell of a human without enough rest. And I feel like if everyone got enough rest on film sets, I feel like the quality of work would be like astronomically better.
Duh.
Like, it just makes sense. Give your crews more rest. The work's gonna be better, right? Is it just me? I think. Now, that talks about the people who, once they leave set, they are done with work. But you also have the folks who, yes, everyone is wrapped, we're off set, but then they're still working, they're answering emails, phone calls, they're having Zoom meetings, they're answering texts in the middle of the night, and this is your director, your ADs, sometimes your key PA because they're trying to book people for the next one, your rewrites are coming in, producers, UPMs, actors are trying to memorize their lines, or they're trying to practice an instrument or whatever, maybe they might be memorizing a song that they have to know that they just got that night that they're going to be performing the next day, which actually happened in the last show that I was on. And this happens more often when there are rewrites. The writer has a new rewrite, an EP has a sudden change, maybe there is a wardrobe design thing that's happening, the producers or the studio doesn't like it, so all of a sudden all these changes have to be made, and that usually always means more work for the crew. And this all happens when the crew and those folks are supposed to be resting. And there's nothing I hate more than when I'm a first AD on a movie and my second AD, the DP, or the director want to have a meeting at lunch. Please shoot me. I don't want to have a meeting at lunch. Give me like 20 minutes to recharge. Let me eat my food alone, please. Now, this leads me to the unions striking. Now, everything up until this point in this video has been something that the unions are trying to fight for. Now, what union are we talking about? We're talking about IATSE, the International Alliance of Stage Theatrical Employees. They are the union that protects thousands across the country on sets. And IATSE is going up against the AMPTP. And who the hell is that, you ask? They are the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. And there are a bunch of big companies that belong to that organization. They are the film industry's bargaining rep when it comes to what producers need and what productions need to get shows shot. So you have IATSE, who are the crew below the line, and then you have AMTPT, who are going to be producers and above the line. Really, really wealthy folks over there. And here are all the companies that belong to the AMPTP. IATSE is fighting for rest time, more rest time, shorter work days, breaks, and to also protect their benefits. Now, healthcare is a major reason why a lot of people strive to get into the unions when they're working in the film industry. Healthcare benefits and pension, we're trying to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and we're taking care of our futures. And with every show you work on that is union, they pay into your benefits, except the class of new media. Now, when I say new media, this includes Amazon, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. I think there's CBS All Access that it will be only shown on the app and not on broadcast. All of those streaming services are considered new media. I'm sure you can think of a dozen shows that you're probably watching on these streaming services that are like doing really, really well and they're making a ton of money, but they're not paying the same wage and they weren't paying into the benefits of the union workers. When all these streaming services started coming out, it was kind of uncharted territory when it came to the unions and what was supposed to be paid out. Back then, they weren't making record profits like they were today, so IATSE is like, wait a minute, let's relook at this and let's kind of make sure this is right. So on top of making sure that new media is paying their proper wage and paying into benefits, they're also fighting for proper rest time, shorter work days, like I said before. Now, if you think about it, if you look at the demands, it's not a lot. I don't think it's a lot considering the record record profits that are coming in for these companies that are part of the AMPTP. For my friends that are working in non-union or the indie world, how does this affect you? Now, most of the time, all the things that I've been working on that have been non-union, we kind of follow the same union rules. We try to stick to under 12 hours. We try to make sure that we break for lunch, we don't get penalties, all that stuff. So whatever happens in the union world usually trickles down into the non-union or the indie world. And that's the hope. Like, the changes that are made for the better in the union world will translate into other sets that may not be union. I stand with and I support IASTE and what they're fighting for, because I myself have had some really, really tough days. And if you want an eye-opening experience with what people are dealing with in the film industry, they are not the only ones. I am not the only one. And if you are watching this video and you're not the only one, you are not alone. It is very, very hard to work in the film industry. You think you're alone and that you should just toughen up and just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just like deal with it. But you are not alone. We're all human, and these stories will, I feel like, not make us feel better, but just knowing that you're not alone in the situation helps so much. So I support what IASTE is trying to do, because if they strike, I support that, because if it means changes for the better, then that is what needs to happen. And I mean, I don't know how long my body will last doing 16-hour days, and that's pretty sad to look at your career saying, like, I only have so many years left in me, and I have had so many stressful shows. There's not a show that I have not worked on where I've not had a crazy, stressful, all-out hysterical crying breakdown, because everything just topples on to a certain person, and there's like people pulling you in all different types of directions. People are yelling at you. You have narcissists, you have assholes, you have divas, all at the same time, trying to just suck the life out of you, basically. I've had those days. It sucks. And whatever we can do to make the film industry better, we should. I mean, when you really think about it, this fight comes down to time and money. Because, and here's the drawbacks about this argument is, if you want shorter work days and more rest, that means, bottom line, if you look at it through a year schedule, less things can be made in a year, which means less content, which means less advertising dollars, which means less shows can be produced and less content will be out there for the customer to consume. That messes with the bottom line, and we're really flirting with disaster here. And that's probably why the film industry is the way it is. I am not sure how this is going to pan out, but right now, from the date of this video, they are authorizing to vote. There's no strike yet, but tensions are very, very high. And yes, if they strike, I will probably be out of a job. And I mean, let's just hope for the best.